Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you now to open your heart, to listen not just with your ears, but with your spirit, because what I want to talk to you about today is something far more important than what you see in the mirrors about how you see yourself . Not the image reflected back at you, but the deeper truth of who you really are. There are too many people today walking around in chains that aren't locked by iron, but by perception. They are bound by the opinions of others, by past failures, by shame, by fear. They walk with heads down and hearts heavy. They believe they are not enough, that they've gone too far to be brought back, that their story has already been written and there's no turning the page. But I'm here to tell you today that is not the truth. That is not who you are. You see, the way you see yourself shapes the way you live your life. If you see yourself as a failure, you'll live cautiously, hiding in the shadows of your own potential. If you see yourself as broken, you'll walk away from opportunities because you think you don't deserve them. If you see yourself as insignificant, you'll never stand up and speak when you were born to lead. But the truth is, you were created with purpose. You were not made to live in fear, in shame, or in doubt. You were made to rise. You were made to walk boldly with a head held high, not in pride, but in the confidence of someone who knows who they really are. There's a voice that speaks in the silence of your heart. Sometimes it's a whisper, sometimes it's a roar. That voice tells you that you were made for more, that you are not your past, that you are not your mistakes, that you are not what others have said about you. That voice is the truth, but the world tries to drown it out. It tells you to compare yourself to others, to focus on what you lack, to believe you are small and unworthy. The world will always try to press you down. But let me tell you something. You were never meant to fit into this world's mold. You were made to break it. There's power in changing the way you see yourself. Not a shallow power of ego or self-promotion, but a quiet, unstoppable power that comes from seeing yourself the way the Creator sees you, with love, with grace, with infinite potential. Some of you have been told since childhood that you wouldn't amount to anything. Maybe a teacher, a parent, or even a so-called friend planted that lie in your soul, and you've carried it like a heavy stone ever since. But hear me today. You can put it down. You can lay it at the feet of truth. Because that's not who you are. You may have stumbled. You may have made choices you regret. We all have. But that's not the end of your story. It's never too late for a new beginning. The greatest transformations come not when your situation changes, but when your vision does. When you begin to see yourself through the lens of grace, your past becomes a testimony, not a prison. Your weaknesses become platforms for strength. Your pain becomes a message of healing for others. You do not have to earn your worth. You already have it. You were born with it. It was stitched into your very soul before you took your first breath. And the world may try to cover it with labels, with expectations, with scars. But those things don't define you. The truth is still there, and it's waiting for you to uncover it, to believe it, to live it. You were not made to be average. You were not created to merely survive. There is more in you. There is greatness in you, not because of status or wealth or popularity, but because you were made with divine intention. You are here for a reason, and no matter where you've been, no matter how low you've fallen, you can rise. Not on your own strength, but on the strength of truth. So I ask you now, will you change the way you see yourself? Will you stop looking through the eyes of fear and start seeing through the eyes of faith? Will you lay down the lies you've carried and take hold of the truth? You were made for light. You were made for love. You were made for more. And if you begin to believe that, if you begin to live that, there is no telling how high you can go. Let the world say what it will. Let the past try to haunt you. Let the doubts try to whisper. But you asterisk, walk forward with your head lifted, because you are not who the world says you are. You are who you were created to be. And that, my friends, changes everything. And if you ever doubt that, if you ever feel that creeping shadow trying to pull you back into the darkness of unworthiness, remember this: lies lose their power the moment you confront them with the truth. There is no darkness so deep that light cannot overcome it. There is no wound so painful that it cannot be healed. There is no distance so far that you cannot be brought back. That's the promise not of man, but of truth. You don't have to stay stuck where you are. You don't have to wear the labels the world has pinned on you. Some of you have been living under the weight of comparison, measuring your life by someone else's timeline, by someone else's blessings, someone else's journey. But you were never meant to walk someone else's path. You were given your own, unique, sacred, and perfectly designed for you. And until you stop trying to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you, you'll never experience the fullness of your potential. You've got to stop seeing yourself through the broken lens of what others think and start seeing yourself through the eyes of purpose. When you begin to believe you are more than your failures, something begins to shift. You walk differently, you speak differently, not because you're pretending to be something you're not, but because you're finally stepping into who you've always been. And when that happens, the chains start to fall. The shame loses its grip. The fear begins to melt because the truth sets you free. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never want to go back. Some of you have dreams buried deep inside you, visions, callings, ideas that you've pushed aside because you thought you weren't worthy. You thought you didn't have what it takes. But if those dreams are still in you, it's because they were planted there for a reason. They weren't put there to torment you. They were placed in your heart to pull you forward. And maybe, just maybe, all that's needed to awaken them is a change in how you see yourself. This is not about pretending everything is perfect. This is not about ignoring your past or avoiding your pain. No, this is about facing it, head on, but no longer letting it define you. It's about rising above the things that tried to break you and using them as stepping stones to your destiny. It's about saying, yes, I've been through the fire, but I didn't burn. I've been in the storm, but I wasn't destroyed. That kind of perspective doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. It comes when you start believing that your story is not over, that the author of your life hasn't stopped writing. And let me tell you something. Some of the most powerful people you will ever meet are not the ones who have had it easy. They're the ones who have struggled, who have fallen, who have wrestled with doubt and pain, but who chose to get back up. They chose to see themselves not as victims, but as victors. They chose to believe that there was still something beautiful ahead, even when the road behind was marked by pain. You have that choice too. Right now, you can choose to believe that the reflection in the mirror is not the sum total of your life. You can choose to believe that the voice of truth is louder than the voice of fear. You can choose to believe that the one who created you didn't make a mistake. You are not here by accident. Your life is not meaningless. You are not just another face in the crowd. You are known, you are seen, you are loved. But knowing it is not enough. You must live it. You must walk in it. Every day when the doubts come, and they will, you must speak the truth. When fear whispers that you can't, you must stand and declare that you are made for more. When the world says you are forgotten, you must remember that your name is written on the heart of eternity. And don't just keep that truth for yourself. Once you begin to see yourself in this new light, don't be afraid to shine it for others, because there are people in your life, right now, who are walking in darkness, who are stumbling under the same lies that once held you down. Your courage to see yourself differently may be the very thing that gives someone else the strength to rise. You may not feel qualified. You may not feel ready. But the truth is, those feelings don't disqualify you. They remind you to stay humble. They remind you that this journey isn't about perfection. It's about transformation. It's about being willing to shed the old skin of shame and fear and step into something new. Step into your calling, step into your purpose, step into the truth. So lift your eyes, straighten your shoulders, take a breath, not in anxiety, but in peace. The journey ahead may not be easy, but it will be worth it. And as you go, never forget, the way you see yourself can either be a prison or a path to freedom. Choose to see what's true. Choose to see what's possible. Choose to see the miracle that is **, because the moment you do, that's the moment everything begins to change. You might be wondering, how do I begin to change the way I see myself when I've lived so long with a certain image burned into my mind? How do I let go of what's been spoken over me, what's been etched into my soul by disappointment, rejection, or failure? The answer doesn't lie in pretending those things never happened. It lies in confronting them, acknowledging them, and then refusing to let them define the rest of your story. We have all been scarred by something. Life has a way of leaving marks on us, some of them visible, many of them invisible. Scars of betrayal, of broken dreams, of silent battles fought in the dark. But hear me, your scars are not proof of defeat. They are signs that you survived. They are reminders that you were tested and did not break. You see, when you start to look at your life through a new lens, you begin to understand that what tried to destroy you may have actually shaped you for the purpose ahead. That your pain may become the platform upon which you stand to help others rise, but that takes vision, real vision, not just the ability to see what's in front of you, but to believe in what's within you. The world trains us to look outward, to measure, to compare, to strive. But real change begins when we stop looking at others and start looking inward. When we stop measuring our worth by applause or achievement and instead measure it by truth. And the truth is, no mistake you've made can cancel the purpose that was placed in you. You may have lost your way, but the road back is never blocked. It is always open to those who are willing to take the first step. And the first step is often the hardest, because it means you have to break free from the lie that says, "This is just who I am. I can't change." That's not humility, that's resignation, and it's false. You can change, not by your own striving, not by sheer willpower alone, but by allowing truth to do what only it can do, transform you from the inside out. But it won't happen unless you open your heart. Unless you surrender the version of yourself that was built on fear and shame and trade it for the truth of who you really are. It takes courage to see yourself differently. It takes courage to unlearn the voices that told you you were never enough. It takes courage to believe in your worth when everything around you says otherwise. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. And if you wait for the fear to go away before you start believing in yourself, you'll be waiting a lifetime. At some point, you've got to decide that the truth is more powerful than the lie, and then you have to live like it. You see, there is something powerful that happens when a person truly embraces who they are. Not the image they've projected, not the version others expect, but the real, raw, unfiltered self, the one created for greatness, even if they've forgotten it. When that person begins to walk in truth, they don't just change their own life, they change everything around them. They inspire others, they lift others, they become a light in the darkness, and this world needs that light. It needs you. Don't let the weight of your past hold you back any longer. Don't let the failures define you. Failure is not your identity. It's a moment, not a label. And even the worst moments of your life can be redeemed if you're willing to see them through the lens of purpose. Some of the greatest victories are born in the ashes of failure. Some of the strongest voices were once silenced by fear, and some of the most powerful lives began in the lowest places. Your story may have had some dark chapters, but you're still here, and as long as you are still here, the story is not over. You have the power to choose how it continues. You can choose to rise. You can choose to speak truth over yourself. You can choose to break the silence of insecurity with the declaration of worth. You can choose to believe that the image you hold of yourself can be renewed. But belief alone is not enough. You must live as though it is true. You must walk in it, breathe it, speak it. Every time you look in the mirror, you are looking at a miracle. And I know that word might sound too big, too dramatic, but it's not. It's the truth. You were created intentionally, formed with love, designed with care, and the very breath in your lungs is evidence that your life still holds purpose, that you still have something to give, something to become. But you will never step into that destiny if you keep believing that you are not worthy of it. Some of you have lived for years carrying a name that was never yours, a name like failure or worthless or broken, but that's not your name. That's not your identity. That's not your truth. You have a new name, chosen, loved, strong, called, but you must receive it. You must speak it over yourself, even when it feels unnatural, especially when it feels unnatural, because that's the place where transformation begins. And don't be surprised if people around you don't understand it. Don't be discouraged if they still try to label you by your past. Sometimes people will resist your growth because it challenges the way they see themselves. But you don't need their permission to grow. You don't need their approval to change. All you need is truth and the willingness to walk in it. The road ahead will have its challenges. You will still face moments of doubt. But every time you feel weak, remember this. You don't have to rely on your own strength. There is strength that comes from knowing who you are. There is strength that comes from standing on truth. And there is strength that rises when you stop trying to be someone else and finally embrace the one you were created to be. Your identity is not a project to be completed. It is a truth to be uncovered. A truth to be lived, and every step you take in that direction, every time you silence a lie with the truth, every time you lift your head when you feel like hiding, every time you choose to see beauty where you once saw brokenness, you are reclaiming your life. You are stepping into the light. You are becoming who you were meant to be. And that journey, that decision, that transformation, it matters more than you know, not just for you, but for the world around you. Because when you change the way you see yourself, you change the way you show up. And when you change the way you show up, you start to shift the atmosphere. You become a voice of hope, a light in darkness, a living testimony that truth is stronger than fear, that love is greater than shame, and that grace can rewrite any story. You may not feel ready. You may still hear the echo of old voices telling you that you can't. But let me speak a greater truth over you now. You can asterisk, not because you are perfect, but because you are being perfected. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are willing to walk in faith. Not because you haven't failed, but because you refuse to stay down. You were made for more. You were made to rise. You were made to reflect a greater truth than anything this world can offer. So walk boldly. Speak truth, stand tall, and never again settle for the lies that once held you captive. Because when you change the way you see yourself, you change the trajectory of your life. And when you change the trajectory of your life, you start to step into the legacy that was always waiting for you. And that, my friend, is the truth. Even now, in this very moment, there is a quiet call rising within you, a call to believe, to move forward, to leave behind the cloak of false identity that has kept you small. You've worn it for too long. It has felt familiar, even comfortable at times, but it was never meant to be yours. That version of yourself, the one chained to guilt, to regret, to comparison, has served its time. It taught you lessons, it showed you the cracks, but now it's time to step out of the shadows and into the light of who you truly are. You are not the sum of your worst days. You are not defined by the people who didn't see your worth. You are not limited by the closed doors, the missed opportunities, or the voices that tried to silence your dream. You were born for this moment. You were born to rise up, not by accident, not by chance, but by divine design. Every breath you take is a reminder that your purpose still lives. And if your purpose lives, then hope is alive. And if hope is alive, then nothing is impossible. So go on, live like it's true. Let your words reflect your worth. Let your actions be rooted in love. Let your steps be bold, even when they're uncertain, because you are not walking alone. You are walking with truth on your side. And when you live from that place, the world begins to change around you. And though this message may end here, the truth it carries never does. Let it echo in your soul, let it lead you forward, and never again forget. You are more than you ever imagined, and now is the time to live like it. In the end, changing the way you see yourself is the beginning of a new life, a life filled with hope, purpose, and unstoppable courage. When you choose to see yourself through the eyes of truth rather than fear, you break free from the chains that have held you back. You step into the person you were always meant to be, strong, loved, and deeply valuable. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but with each choice to believe in your worth, you move closer to the fullness of your destiny. So embrace that truth, walk boldly in it, and know that your life, your story, still holds great things ahead. You were made for more, and the time to live that truth is now.